Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be going over a tropical recap. Basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be just talking about quickly summarizing all the disturbances, so all the hurricanes, uh, tropical depressions in the Atlantic and the Pacific, because I haven't been seeing a lot of people actually talking about them, and these could actually affect some of the U.S. In the future in a couple of weeks. So I wanted to just talk about them. I know a lot of people are actually unaware about these, so I just wanted to make this video, and we're just gonna quickly summarize all of the different storms. But first, we're going to start in the National Hurricane Center, where we do have all these warnings for Dorian. All of these over here, if you're anywhere in here, this is for Dorian, and we have in the here's all what all the warnings and stuff mean down below the map. But there's hurricane warnings anywhere in that lighter red. Dark red is tropical storm warnings, and then we have flash flood warnings. It's just a mess over the Carolinas and up all the way into off the shore of Maine. We have all those hurricane and tropical storm warnings, and even we actually got some tropical storm warnings today. Around just a couple hours ago, we actually got some tropical storm warnings right in near Maryland and in Virginia. So that's gonna be interesting. This means that it'll probably go a bit closer to shore, but shouldn't impact people in right around New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island. But it probably will impact Nantucket over there. And one thing I want to point out is we actually have a frost advisory, believe it or not. Just started September and we already have frost advisories. That's that light blue up in Maine. And then we have fire weather danger in that pink. And then down in the southeast, we have in that orange, we have heat advisories. Now let's talk about the Atlantic Basin. Here's what everything that's happening in the Atlantic. So right over here we have Dorian. Then we have these three tropical cyclones that are trying to form right now. This one in the orange, I have the highest likelihood of what I've been seeing of probably maybe impacting some of those Caribbean islands and then also potentially hitting the US mainland. Again, this is way too far out to actually predict and say for sure this might happen, but that's just my educated guess. And then Gabrielle, which is a tropical storm right now, which actually looks to go off to sea, is right there, just a bit to the west of the coast of Africa. Now let's talk about Hurricane Dorian. Here are all the. We're not gonna go over all the watches and warnings again, but because we already did that, but we're gonna actually go over this cone of uncertainty. And over here, right until it gets right near right around coastal Canada, that's when it turns from a hurricane to actually a tropical storm, and that's by Sunday. But before then, by Friday, we're right off the coast of Delaware and Maryland and that Delmarva area, and then it moves closer to right off the coast of Massachusetts and right off the New England coast, and then it finally moves off to sea as a weaker system. Here's the wind field of Dorian. So anywhere in that darker red, kind of that maroon, that's the hurricane force wind speeds, and then tropical storm force wind speeds are in that orange. And then that line over here, that dotted line, that is the past track of Dorian, and then that white dot is where Dorian's center is right now. And and for the cone of uncertainty, a lot of people actually misunderstand what that shows. That just shows where the center could be, but the center is of course not the storm. The storm, it can spread hundreds of miles out of the center, and there could be storm surge. Uh, I think the uh, largest hurricane was actually Sandy in the Atlantic, and that was 600 miles wide. So affects 600 miles from the center. So hurricanes are just, they can be humongous, and the center isn't really where all the impacts actually are. Here's the rainfall for Dorian. Anywhere in the oranges and yellows, that's 46 to maybe even 10 inches. If you're in the reds, you're 10 to 15 inches. So for parts of those parts of coastal North Carolina and coastal South Carolina, you could definitely be seeing 10 plus inches of rain. So some of those low-lying areas could definitely be flooded from this system. Here's our chance of flash flood risk. So we have a high chance anywhere in that purple, really for a lot of the eastern half of North Carolina and South Carolina, and then in that red we have a 20% moderate risk. And then over here, if you want to look at those, that's for through Friday morning and then through Saturday morning. So of course we still have that high through Friday morning, and then we have that high risk actually kind of goes a bit north and kind of gets suppressed down as it moves a bit off the shore through Saturday morning. Now, here's the chances of tropical storm force wind speeds. This, don't worry about this. We're going to talk about this later. This is Gabrielle's wind speeds. This right over here is what we should be talking about, which is Dorian's wind speeds. And you see, just for South Carolina and North Carolina, we pretty much have a guaranteed shot of seeing those tropical storm force wind speeds. And then here's the hurricane force wind speeds, and that again, pretty high likelihood for South Carolina and North Carolina to see those hurricane force wind speeds. Now let's talk about Tropical Storm Gabrielle, which is right now brewing up in the Atlantic, and it's a tropical storm, and it looks to stay as a tropical storm all the way through 8 a.m. Tuesday. Luckily, this is going to be well off the sea, so we won't see many impacts to land. Maybe a couple islands here and there, but if it does hit the islands, it won't be a big system, so nothing really to worry about with Gabrielle. And here's the tropical storm force wind speeds probabilities. So you see pretty high likelihood right anywhere in those yellows and oranges and even those reds and purples. Here's the hurricane wind speed probabilities. We'll only have that 5 to 10% chance right over here, right to the east of Bermuda. That's where we have those tropical storm force winds, those hurricane force wind speed probabilities. Now let's talk about the Eastern Pacific. Here we have Juliet right over there off the coast of the western coast of Mexico, and that does not look not look likely to impact any land. Potentially as a remnants of a storm, it might actually impact Hawaii, but nothing major. Right up until this point, actually, it seems to stay as a hurricane, and then by around the evening on Friday, it gets decreased into a tropical storm, and then finally a depression after 5 a.m. Sunday. So it's definitely not the strongest system in the world, and it probably won't even hit any land. So nothing really to worry about from here. Tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, and here are the hurricane force wind speed probabilities, just off the coast of Mexico. Now, finally, Tropical Depression 12E. Now, this one could definitely potentially hit Hawaii if it takes a more northward track. Here it is, right over here. We're looking at the Central Pacific right now, and this is Hawaii, this chain of islands right here. And right now it's a tropical depression, but it does look to strengthen as high as a tropical storm by 2 a.m. tomorrow, and it'll stay that way all the way until Tuesday, which is the max forecast for the National Weather Service. But if the eye of the storm takes this most northward track, definitely for the southern coast of these islands, you could definitely see some rip currents and storm surge. Here's the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. Now, Hawaii does not look likely to get impacted by these high winds. And here's the hurricane force wind speeds. We really don't have any chance of a hurricane force wind speed. Hawaii does not look likely to get impacted, but definitely could be impacted as a tropical storm from this system. Anyways, guys, I do want to wrap that video up. This was a quick video just to wrap up everything that's been happening, and of course everybody's attention has been centered around Dorian over the past couple days, and so many people haven't actually been able to get a chance to actually learn about these different. We have about 7 or 8 different disturbances, tropical storms, tropical depressions, hurricanes out in the Atlantic and Pacific that might impact U.S. mainland, and there just hasn't been a lot of talk about it recently. So I just wanted to summarize all those in one little video. So if you did enjoy that video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video. Really does support the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. That was Eli the Weather Guy. Goodbye.